Some of you here this morning are dealing with a lifetime of dysfunction, depression, because somewhere along the line they said things like, you will never amount to anything. The tongue, although disproportionately small to the rest of the body, has the power to direct our lives and the lives of others for good or for bad. The tongue really is one of the smallest parts of our body, but yet it is one of the most powerful. See, most people think that what they say is not really a big deal. It's just words. We've all heard the saying, sticks and stones may break my bones, but what? But words will never hurt me. That could be their motto, but that is not true. Words do hurt. I was just talking to a friend of mine, a parent, just 2 days ago, and she was telling me a story of her son. He's one of the kids that I coach on a baseball team, and he was playing at another team this summer, and one of his teammates said a couple words I'm not going to repeat here in church, but those 2 words that his teammates said over him in his life affected him so bad where he's like, Mom, I don't want to go back and play for that team again. And they had a game the next day. 2 words that a teammate spoke to him hurt him so bad where he said, I don't want to even play the game that I love. Words do hurt. They hurt emotionally, and emotional wounds, they always take a lot longer to heal than physical wounds do. Here's another thought. What is the one value that we as Americans celebrate the most? Freedom of what? Freedom of speech, right? Yeah, we live in America. We could say whatever we want, right? But here's the thing. I think people have twisted that value to mean something our founding fathers never meant it to be. I think a lot of people think that this means that I can speak my mind however I want, the way that I want, and when I want. But that's not what freedom of speech is supposed to be, nor is that what God's word teaches us. The Bible teaches us that our words should be measured, they should be controlled, and they should be submitted to the Lord before we speak. Now here in James, he gives us 3 illustrations to drive the point home about the power of the tongue. So first, he compares the tongue to a horse's bit. Verse 3, when we put bits into the mouths of horses to make them obey us, we can turn the whole animal. So for those of you that don't know what a bit is, here's a picture of a bit. If you take a look, you see a little silver ball there, and attached to the ball is a rod that kind of goes through the horse's mouth, and it rests on top of the horse's tongue. You see that rod, the bit, it rests on the tongue, and that little piece of metal is what makes it possible to control all the raw power of that horse. And the rider, is pulling on the reins that are connected to the bit. And if you think about this too, who's been horseback riding before? Raise your hand. Quite a few of us, okay? So you would understand this, that if the horse is tamed, it could be very useful. When you could direct its power, when it's tamed properly, you can get a lot of productive things done. But an untamed horse is very dangerous to be around. I'll give you one example. So the day after I graduated from the University of Valley Forge, some of my friends and myself and Kelly, we went on a cruise to Mexico. It was a Caribbean cruise. We went to different stops, Cayman Islands, Belize, Cozumel. We had a blast. And one of the excursions that we did was horseback riding. That's the only time I've ever been on a horse. So we had fun getting on our horses. The tour guide's taking us through these trails. We stopped for a few minutes. My horse decided to, there was a hut, like a little house that was there that had a roof that was made of straw. And my horse started to eat that straw off the hut. I thought, no big deal. It's hot. Maybe he's hungry, having a good time. And my horse up to that point was doing great, just following the trails, and just thanks to the tour guide. But after we got back in the trail, and we were doing our thing there, and all of a sudden I noticed that my horse started to become really agitated, started kicking other horses, actually tried to bite another horse. I'm like, what is going on? And then the tour guide didn't realize that my horse was eating that straw, and that straw can make the horse become high. So technically, my horse was under the influence of the straw. I had no clue, but what I realized that before, when the horse was under control, it was doing what it should, and then once it became untamed, it was a wrecking ball. It was quite the sight. So I can tell you that. See, a horse that can't be controlled can do a lot of damage, hurt a lot of people, could even kill you. But the same thing can be said about our tongue as well. When the tongue is tamed and under control, it can do a lot of good. But when the tongue is untamed, it can do a lot of damage to a lot of people. And I feel like the Lord would challenge some of you this morning. The problem in your home is not everybody else. It could be you and your tongue. If you allow your tongue to be tamed, your home will be a much healthier place. Maybe, just maybe, the problems at your work, maybe not your coworkers or your boss, maybe it's you because you don't have control over your tongue. Maybe the problems in the church is not the church, maybe it's you because you don't have control of your tongue. Now here's another example about the power of the tongue. Verse 4, or take ships as an example. Although they are so large and are driven by strong winds, they are steered by a very small rudder wherever the pilot wants to go. So in case if you don't know what James is talking about, here's a modern picture of what James is trying to communicate to us. Here's a picture of a ship, and if you can see there, the little fin thing, that's the rudder. So it's the same idea as the bits. The rudder is small compared to the rest of the ship, but it has the power to direct that big ship. The rudder determines where the ship goes. And again, the same thing goes to us and our tongues. The words that come out of our mouths can determine whether or not you keep your job or lose your job. The words that come out of our mouths can determine whether your marriage thrives or doesn't survive. The words that come out of our mouths determines whether or not your church is healthy or full of strife. But see, my point is this morning is that your words that you speak directs your ship. And if you really think about it, sometimes it's just not you on your ship. There's other people on your ship as well. It could be your spouse, your kids, co-workers, whoever it may be. Sometimes you're not the only one. And your words can either propel them to health and productivity, or they can direct them into dysfunction. Now, here's one challenging question to think about this. Have there's ever been somebody in your life along the way at some point in your life that somebody spoke something into your life that totally changed you? Raise your hand. There's somebody in your life, there's some kind of mentor. Maybe it was a parent, maybe it was a teacher, maybe it was a coach. Somebody along the line, they spoke life into you and it totally changed you. I saw some hands. I know for me, there's two people that come to my mind. One was one of my first baseball coaches. I started playing baseball at the age of 10. I had a coach by the name of Coach Herb Peterson. He coached me for 3-4 years, and the way that he treated the team, the way that he treated me and believed in me, propelled me to play baseball for 13 years. I started at the age of 10. I played throughout high school, played throughout college, and I trace it back to him. Like, he believed in me at an early age, and because of that, I fell in love with the game, and because of that, because of his influence in my life, I've been able to coach my own kids over the last 9 years in Little League, been able to coach them in middle school and also high school baseball. It all goes back to Coach Herb Peterson believing in me. When I was growing up, when I was a part of a youth group at my home church in Buffalo, we didn't have enough money to pay for a full-time youth pastor. We had the youth leaders, but I had one youth leader, his name was Russ, that believed in me. For several years, just poured into me. And because of his influence in my life, I said, I want to be that one day. I want to be a youth pastor. And I did. I went to Valley Forge, graduated with a youth minister degree, and I was a youth pastor for about 10 years. A lot of that is because of his influence in my life, what he did in my life, and I wanted to be that for another student as I was growing up. See, those encouraging words can help propel you to health and success, but I know this as well. The opposite is also true. Yes, some of you here this morning are dealing with a lifetime of dysfunction, depression, because somewhere along the line, maybe it was your parents, they said things to you that were not good. Maybe it was a boss or whoever it may be. They said things like, you will never amount to anything. They were destructive words, and they propel us to emotional and physical places of unhealthiness. The tongue, although disproportionately small to the rest of the body, has the power to direct our lives and the lives of others for good or for bad. The third example James uses to help us understand the power of the tongue is a spark. Verse 5. Likewise, the tongue is a small part of the body, but it makes great boasts. Consider what a great forest is set on fire by a small spark. So every forest fire is started by what? A spark. See, fire, it could be a very good thing if it's tamed and under control. I mean, we use fire for all sorts of things. We use it to cook. We use it to stay warm. So this morning, who are my campers? You'd like to go camping? Raise your hand. All right, some of you may like to do in a camper, maybe tent camping. But one of my favorite things is in our family, we have a camper. We love to go camping. Is we like to sit around the bonfire and just cook. Do s'mores. We love to cook mountain pies over the bonfire. Whether it be pizza, taco mountain pie, ham and cheese, or desserts. We just love sitting around the bonfire, and it's amazing too. With the bonfire being controlled, our family will sit around it, and my kids, they will open up for hours. And they'll just talk. And we just love it. But here's the thing. When that bonfire is under control, a lot of great things can happen. Fellowship and everything else. But the opposite is true as well. It has potential to burn down the whole forest, the whole house, the whole village. Lots of families, marriages, friendships, and churches have been burned to the ground by the spark of someone's tongue. The writer of Proverbs sums up the point that James is making with these illustrations in one sentence. Proverbs 18:21. The tongue has the power of life and death. So church, don't ever think that words don't matter. They're not a small thing. They are a very big, powerful thing. They matter to you and to others, and they matter to God and His kingdom.